Can an 8-year-old GPU take on Expedition 33 and survive? Let's find out, shall we? Today we are testing Expedition 33 on one of Nvidia's greatest GPUs ever made, the GTX 1070 Ti. Released back in late 2017, this card was a beast in its prime, sitting comfortably between the GTX 1070 and the more powerful GTX 1080. With 2,432 CUDA cores, 8GB of DDR5 VRAM, and solid power efficiency, it quickly became a favorite amongst gamers who wanted top-tier performance without flagship price. But here we are in 2025, 8 years later, and the question is, can this aging GPU still deliver a playable experience in a modern title like Expedition 33? We will be testing the game from low to epic settings to find out what it really takes to get decent visuals and smooth gameplay on this legendary piece of hardware. Let's dive in, shall we? So what kind of performance can we expect when pairing TSR at 50% resolution scaling with low settings on the GTX 1070 Ti? During our testing, frame rates range from 30 to 60 FPS, generally staying within the 30 to 50 FPS margin for most of the gameplay. The average frame rate came in at 44 FPS, which isn't mind-blowing but still offered a smooth and consistent experience overall, especially considering the significant resolution downscaling from TSR. Looking at the frame times stability, the 1% low came in at 30 FPS, which is solid and shows the GPU held up well under pressure. More impressively is that the 1% lows was 17 FPS. A drop? Yes, but a real one that didn't disrupt the flow of gameplay. In real time, it felt responsive and stable. Now, let's talk about the visuals. With low settings and 50% resolution scaling, don't expect any graphical magic here. The textures were flat, details were muddy, and overall fidelity was sacrificed. But surprisingly, the game's art style still managed to shine through. Despite the downgrade, the experience remained immersive, showing that a strong artistic direction can carry a lot of visual weight and even under technical limitation. Most importantly, there were no frame issues, no visual bugs, and there are absolutely no input lag. Every action felt tight, precise, and responsive. The game maintained a reliable level of playability from start to finish. With TSR set to 50% resolution scaling and the game on medium settings, the GTX 1070 Ti managed to push out 30 to 50 FPS, typically staying within the 30 FPS range most of the time. The average FPS was 34, which while far from ideal, still resulted in surprisingly smooth and stable gameplay under the circumstances. The 1% low came in at 21 FPS, and while that's a drop from low settings, it's still playable, especially considering the visual upgrade. The 1% low dipped to 8 FPS, but these were rare instances and didn't translate into stuttering or input lag during gameplay. In terms of visuals, the jump to medium settings brought a noticeable improvement. The environmental details were sharper, lighting effects looked better, and a lot of the visual issues from low settings like flat textures and muddy surfaces were cleaned up. However, this improvement came at a cost. Frame rate took a clear hit, and the 1% lows were nearly cut in half compared to the low settings run. That said, gameplay remained stable. There were no visual bugs, no stutters, no input lag throughout testing. Everything felt responsive, and even if performance wasn't as fluid as on low settings. If you're looking for a visual upgrade without completely tanking performance, medium settings with 50% TSR can work, but it's a trade-off. You get better graphics, but you sacrifice smoothness, and for some, that's a tough call. Now moving on into the big boy territory, TSR was set to 50% resolution scaling and the game on high settings. Performance dropped quite a bit, but the visual upgrade was well worth the trade-off. The GTX 1070 Ti managed between 28 to 38 FPS, typically holding within the 25 range most of the time. The average FPS was 35 during intense battle scenes and around 28 FPS during open world exploration. That variation was expected, but overall, the game remained playable and smooth enough for a solid experience. The 1% low held at 22 FPS, and even the 0.1% lows at 11 weren't bad. Considering the visual demands, These dips didn't cause any frame skip, stuttering, or input delay during gameplay, which was quite impressive. Now, let's talk visuals. This was the most noticeable upgrade so far. Textures looked sharper, lighting effects became richer, and the game world felt more alive. Compared to low and medium settings, high settings made everything pop, even at 50% resolution scaling. Yes, the frame rate took a hit, but honestly, it felt worth it. And as always, there were no visual bugs, no weird frame spikes, and no input lag. Everything was smooth and responsive, even when the FPS dropped closer to 28. So, if you are someone who values better visuals and can tolerate a slight drop in frame rate, this might be the sweet spot for the GTX 1070 Ti. But hey, what do you think? Was the visual jump worth the FPS cost? Let me know in the comment section below. Our tiers are 50% resolution scaling with the game set to epic settings. The GTX 1070 Ti was clearly pushed to its limits. Frame rate hovered between 18 to 25 FPS, with most of the action sitting around 20 FPS mark. During battle scenes, we saw an average of 23 FPS, and in open world roaming, it climbed, or dipped actually, to around 20 FPS. The 1% low came in at 15 FPS, and the 0.1% lows dropped to 7 FPS. Surprisingly, even these numbers this low, the game didn't feel completely unplayable. There were no input delay, and despite the occasional slowdown, gameplay remained surprisingly responsive. Now, let's talk visuals. This is where epic settings truly live up to its name. The level of details, the lighting, the particle effect, and the richness of the environment made the game look absolutely stunning. It was a reminder of just how far visuals have come and how immersive a well-designed world can be when maxed out. At times, it felt more like a cinematic experience than a game. But here is the thing, as gorgeous as it looked, the performance cost is just too steep. On a car like the GTX 1070 Ti, which is already showing its age, the toll is heavy. Yes, you get the full visual spectacle, but you will be sacrificing fluidity and consistency. Let's be honest, is crucial for gameplay. So while it was great to see what this game would look like at its absolute best, I'd have to say stay away from epic settings if you are using older hardware. The FPS drop just isn't worth it. Here's my final take after the testing. The GTX 1070 Ti still puts up a solid fight in 2025. From low to high settings with TSR at 50% resolution scaling, you can get a smooth and playable experience with decent visuals. Epic settings look amazing, but the performance hit is just too much for its aging card. If you want the best performance of visual quality and frame rate, high settings, well, I wouldn't say high, I would probably say medium setting is a sweet spot. Just stay clear of epic settings if you value smooth gameplay.